Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese, and today we're going to make a scrapbook from scratch. I know when you hear from scratch, you usually think about cooking and baking, but in my case, since that's not even the realm of doable, I'm talking about making a scrapbook where all the ingredients are going to be from scratch, and it means that you can put it to dimensions and sizes and colors and themes that work perfectly for your photos. What I start with are the page protectors. So if you look here, I haven't even created a title for this yet because I'm not really sure. Inside, the way that my book is held together is with this metal prong fastener. And if I slide these down, this folds up and down. It's so easy to move these out of the way and slide these pages, just lift them in and out. And then when you have as many pages added as you want, you just simply slide these closures out of the way and then slide them back so that they're holding those fasteners down. We're going to decorate the fastener because they actually come just in metal. And then you pick paper and embellishments and everything, how many pages, all of it's based on the theme of your photos and the number of your photos and the journaling, the mementos, all in these page protectors that you need to make sure are acid-free. So it needs to start with the page protectors. And I went to my local office supply and found that they actually had multiples. This was not the only size they carry. It says 5.5 by 8.5, but they're talking about that's the finished size of the card that you slide into this page. The page protector itself is actually larger. What I did was went in the same store and I found these metal fasteners, and I had an old batch from an old scrapbook store. You can see that they're created the same way. They're different sizes. Oddly enough, none of these fit the holes in these page protectors. And once again, I mentioned it, but be sure you look, make sure it says acid-free, archival safe, because your precious photos are going to go inside. So once you have your page protectors, then if you find metal fasteners that fit the holes, perfect. If you don't, doesn't matter. It's not that hard. You're just going to take and lay one of the page protectors down. And when you buy these, you need both sections. Sometimes they come like this together, and sometimes they're in separate boxes. This one has adhesive already on it, and then some don't, and you add your own adhesive. But we'll get to that when we get ready to fasten it in. At this point, you want to take, this is the part that has to match up with the holes. And I need to set it down so that it's in the middle. I want it to be in the middle. So if I lay it here, I can see that when I have an even amount of white space at the end here before this next hole, and the same thing with an even amount of white space at the end of this one before this hole, that should be when it's pretty much in the middle. So I'm going to take, it needs to be a Sharpie or some permanent marker that I can use to mark the hole with. And I can see it's not marking, so let me get it started. Oh, goodness. It's almost like my pen is almost out. There we go. So I mark that hole, and I'm marking this hole. And when I take it up, you can see I've got those circles marked. Plastic is probably one of the most difficult things to punch or to cut or to die cut. But I've discovered it's not difficult if you add something that makes it not so slippery. So if I take my 1/4-inch hole punch and I just take copy paper, by placing the copy paper underneath and adding just this copy paper, instead of having two slippery edges, it makes it not difficult to punch. So I'm going to place my copy paper underneath, and I'm going to go ahead and line it up with the circle that I've hand drawn, and then punch. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the one at the other end. Just line it up with my circle and punch. So once you've punched the holes that are going to line up with the fasteners that you've purchased, you want to do that with all of the page protectors that are inside. So once I have one that's my guide, I'm going to use this now to mark where those holes need to be. Instead of laying the metal down each time, now all I need to do is line this up, make sure that you have the bottom and the tops matching, and then when they're aligned, go back. This marking pen is fighting me. And mark your circles in each of the page protectors that you're going to put into your book. And do the same thing with all the page protectors that you want to include. Use your copy paper to punch all your circles. So I'm going to actually stop just after doing 3 pages, but of course I'm really going to do more pages than that. This will be enough for you to see, as long as all your pages, all the new circles that you've cut will line up. This is how you're going to know where to attach into the book. Now, when I set this down, I need for the measurements of this chipboard to go with the measurement of my page protectors. And I think I may have made these a little tighter than they need to be. What I did is I measured chipboard that was 13 1/4 inches long and 8 7/8 inches wide. So 8 7/8 by 13 1/4. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what I did. If I were you, I would make it a little bigger in relation to the page protectors, because it's, you know, it's not allowing for much slippage at all. But I want the spine of this scrapbook to be right in the middle. So I've come in 6 1/2 and I've put a score mark, and 6 1/2 from the other end and put a score mark. And that gives me a 1/4 inch spine for my book. So here I've got my book, and I'll show you what I mean by cutting it a little bit close. When I go back and place one of my pages into the book, and I have to think about facing you, this is up. So if this is going to be where the pages are going to go, you can see there's my fold line. This is pretty close to those edges. I think it's a little smarter to give yourself just a little bit more breathing room, so that when you position all these in, if you make a little nudge at the wrong moment, you don't have the whole thing in the wrong spot. What you want to do is, we're going to take this fastener and we have the matching part. This is going to get attached in like so. But first, I think it's easiest to add the decoration to what will be the front before we do any positioning. So the ones that I bought, this part under here is adhesive. This isn't, but I'm going to use a sticker that happens to be fabric. And I'm going to position it so it just lines up with where that's going to fold. So let me line this up with the end. I need to get it a little closer so I can tell when it's straight. And then I'm placing it right over the top of the metal prong, and I'm going to turn it over, and with my scissors I'll just trim off the extra, but this way it will still match the shape of the prong fastener. So it's curling around. So let's get rid of that. I'm not going to stop to do the other side, but you would do the exact same thing on the other side. Once you have that decorated on both ends, then it's time to look at attaching this. But trying to figure out exactly where to put this, I think the simplest thing is to get this started, but don't actually pull it off yet. And I'm going to start it off both ends because I'm not sure which end is going to be the easier end to work from. And what I'm going to do is take the 3 pages that I have, and of course, as I mentioned, I'm going to eventually do a lot more than 3, but let me take my pages, align them, place, actually, I think I'm going to fold these up first. So let me fold this one up, and it's nice and pliable, so it's easy to just fold right at that bended edge. It's designed to fold there, so maybe they've even scored it. I don't know, but it folds really easily. And I'm going to poke this through and poke this through. And of course, as I said, you would have as many more pages as you want. But see, now it's going to be easy enough to peel this backing off and figure out where this is going to go and get it lined up and positioned, and then peel the backing off. And then before I let it sit down, I think what I'll do is hold it onto it by the prongs. So it's holded up in the air, and I can see that I'm clearing the bottom, I'm clearing the top, I'm clearing the sides, and I need to come inside. I need to not overlap with my fold. I want it to sit inside the fold. So when it looks like I've cleared the fold and everywhere else, now I can go ahead and press. So that's going to attach in a really good place. When you have all the scrapbook pages inside, then go ahead and slide this portion right over the top. And what you do is you slide both of these closure sections out of the way, pull this over, and then slide one of them, actually slide both of them back the other direction, close this one, and then only pull one back, and you can see how that's going to work. And look, now you have really the cool makings of a completely by scratch scrapbook. The other things that I did was decoration. Now you can decorate it when it's flat. I thought that I would show you the important part first, and it's not difficult to add these decorations toward the end. I'm going to lay this down and fasten it, but first I want to draw my white stripes. So I'm going to give myself a guideline. I don't need to put stripes the whole way. I only need the stripes to go to this section. So I am going to use my whiteout pen, which I could not live without. And I'm going to get it started first. I've used this one a lot, so it would be just my luck that it'll run out right when we're in the middle. Get it started, and then I'm going to just make sure that I get to that pencil line. Draw my line. I like my lines not to be perfect, which is why this works so great for what I like to do. I suppose you could lay down a metal edge ruler or something, but I like it to look a little wavy and a little unperfect. So it looks, I think it makes it look handmade, which is sort of, you know, that just happens to be what I like. But as I said, the beauty is when you make it yourself is you get to make all those choices. You get to decide. You could make polka dots up here with this same pen very easily. Or, you know, if you have decorative paper that you like, you can always use that. I'm just trying to show you more frugal options if you're like me and you're not wanting to break the bank with every project. Okay, those lines are going to need a minute to dry, but while it's drying, I'm going to go ahead and place my adhesive. This is going to sit right over the top. So let's see if I can get that to start to dry. Put my adhesive on the back of my decorative paper. And I know I say this all the time, and you're probably sick to death of hearing it, but you're going to want more adhesive than I'm doing. This is enough to put it together so you can see how it works. And now I'm going to go ahead. Those probably aren't dry yet. I'm the most impatient person in the universe, but I'm going to be careful when I get up to that edge. And I'm going to just line up the bottom and the side. And go ahead and position this. And then I like, this is kind of soft colors. Nothing here is really bold and bright. I think that it really looks best when you add a little more contrast. So I'm going to add this, and once again, I've used the same white pen just to add the white polka dots onto my black paper. So I'm going to add adhesive to the back of this guy. By now, that white might be a little bit more dry. So I'll start at this edge and overlap right with the edge of the decorative paper. And then you can cut off the edge. Sometimes I like how it looks if I fold it over, and this happens to be not a very good looking edge, so it's a torn edge. I'm going to see what happens if I just trim it and then fold it. And if I don't like the folded edge, then I can always go back and cut that off. But depending on what I put on the inside, it may be something that it will add to that decoration. And then the final elements, of course, this is going to be based on what your theme will be. I picked something generic because, like I said, I'm not sure. But basically, you can see I've got colors of paper that it can get matted, a tag that's generic enough that this could be just almost any theme. You can see this is going to sit over here like so. And to go back and look at this, the additional elements are all, oh, and this little thing has moved on me. But let me put this back where it goes. Clearly I need to add a little more adhesive. In fact, I might just take that off and do it with a pin, which will be sturdier. But once you do this, you can see how great this makes just the coolest little scrapbook. And I tell you, once you've made a few from scratch yourself, I think you're going to be hooked on how personal you can make it. As I said, I haven't decided what photos are going in this yet. I have one that I've created for vacation photos, and I've not yet attached the photos, but I thought I would show you. In this case, instead of the prong fastener going inside, it's covered with the back page, and I let it show instead of having a spine and having it on the inside. It's actually right on the cover. And then when you open it up, I've got the different pages. The first 1, 2, 3 pages are cut with a decorative pattern, but in graduated lengths, so that when you first look at it, you see everything. And then if you look at the pages that follow that, the rest of the pages are just, you know, basic colors that actually, and I picked colors that worked well with the theme of the vacation photos that are going to go inside. You know what? A few page protectors and a metal fastener. It's really all you need to make a completely customized scrapbook from scratch.